run the Green Bay user group. Today I'm going to lead us through a few topics here. I actually work for a consulting company out of the Little Chute area. Spend plenty of time on Power BI, and my interest here is really understanding new topics and seeing how I can expand the product through all the customers we support. So then I'll have the people with Paul in the room go first, and then we'll bounce around the virtual. You're on mute.
Thank you. We'll do some introductions, saying our name, where we're from, what interests us in Power BI a bit. And I'll start. I'm Paul Van Dyke. I am a director of services at Core BTS, and I have a long history with data and analytics. And the last 6 years of it have involved some Power BI, which I think is a great tool. And having connected with people in this kind of meetup to compare notes on where it's going and what they're working on has been a great opportunity. So I'll go around the table this way.
Right. Steve Erbach, GLC Minerals in Green Bay. I'm a business analyst there, and I helped co-found the group with Greg many years ago. Power BI interest is still in designing reports and using data sources, multiple data sources.
Very nice. Project to the camera.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kelly Mrozinski. I just switched jobs this week, so I'm now at Humana as a business intelligence lead in their finance area. And they use Power BI, I think, like everyone these days. So definitely a tool I've used in the past and now in my new role.
Hi, I'm Waldo Atkinson, also in Green Bay. I also just started a new role at Ferguson Enterprises as a Power BI developer, working remotely from my home in Green Bay. This group's always great, and I've been here since they started, and I'm looking forward to every meeting.
Nice. One more joined us. We're doing introductions on this side, and then they'll introduce themselves on that side. So glad to see you again in person.
I know, it's been a while. So my name is Stefan Casper. I work at Elevate 97. My background is in accounting, so a lot of the Power BI reports I create is more for that, but I actually just completed my first SQL course. So I know some IT code now, some a little bit more dangerous, so I can actually query more data than just what's in Dynamics GP. We have our ERP system I've created. Like I'm starting to create my first report that links the two databases together, and yeah, so that's what I use it for.
Good to have you back here in person. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you.
All right. That's it for the people in this room. You can take it, Josh.
Sure. I'm going to go ahead and just call people out. So Greg, why don't you go next?
I'm Greg Freilich. I'm also in Green Bay. I work remotely for a company in Waukesha, Metal Tech International. I lead the Power BI information there. I thought I knew some things about it, but a few months ago, we hired a consultant, Mike Carlo from Power BI.tips, and I'm learning that I know almost nothing. I'm learning so much from him. It's amazing. So, so I'm expanding what I know about Power BI, and it's been a real pleasure learning it. So.
All right. Angela, so we're just doing introductions, where you're from and why you're interested in Power BI.
Well, I've been investigating some different career options, and currently I'm in supply chain, and I work at Tidy Products and Nina in the procurement team. But over time, I've been more and more interested in going in an analytics direction with my career. So I started networking with some of the meetups in both the Fox Valley and Green Bay, and interested to kind of learn from the group and meet some more people so I can continue to learn and grow. And I've also just kind of recently in the past, I'd say like 6 months, kind of taught myself to use Power BI for my job and started to dabble in things so far. So I'm really like a newbie and I'm learning a lot. So that's what I'm here to do.
Nice. Well, thanks for joining.
And I pressure a lot to join. So thanks. Good to see you.
Janessa, why don't you go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Janessa. So I'm actually from New Zealand. I'm just saw your group in Meetup, so I was interested to join. So I've been working on Power BI reports since 2015, so I'm pretty knowledgeable, but I'd like to learn more. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for joining. Javier.
Oh, sorry guys, I was working with my audio here. My name is Javier. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to say, but
Just introduce yourself. You can blame me.
it's okay. I struggled finding the link to this event, but my name is Javier. I work in Fox Valley area over in Rosendale at a manufacturing plant. Always had a big interest in data analytics, and I'm just trying to network and learn as much as I can.
All right.
Thanks for coming on my pressure. Good job.
Thanks.
Jeff, why don't you go next?
Hi, my name is Jeff Subat. I'm independent applications consultant. I'm in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I do NetSuite implementations as well as Power BI stuff, and I'm using Power BI to do data ingress into the ERP application, and now doing much more robust sales and production reporting for my client. As a result of being able to pull the data into Power BI rather than trying to use the limited tools in NetSuite.
All right, and Debbie.
Hi, I don't know if my Teams is working right, so if you can't hear me, let me know.
We can hear you.
Hi, I'm Debbie Knoble. I actually work for Wipfli. I was invited to this by Barb Bell, and I'm a GP consultant, so I don't have a ton of exposure to Power BI because it isn't used as much as it probably should be, and I just want to learn more about it because I feel like I really enjoy messing with data, and B, I just think it would be really helpful for more of our clients to be exposed to it, and we'll see what happens.
All right.
For hosting us here, we're in your Green Bay office. It's great to have time with Wipfli. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I know that you're there. Barb invited me to come up, but I had like 20 meetings today, and turns out most of them got canceled. So I could have come, but oh well. I'm in Madison.
All right, Marv.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marv Nolte. I'm from UW Stevens Point, and I work in institutional research. Been a member or follower of this group for quite a while, and I just enjoy learning from it. There's a lot of good energy in there. So good to see everybody.
All right, and we have one more person before I introduce our special guest. Raul.
Yep. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Good. So everything works on the technology side on my end. That's good. So I work into data, I would say institutional intelligence and business analytics architect for NWTC in Green Bay. I've been working in this role for about past 9.5 years now. I've been to the earlier meetings, the pre-COVID times in person, and I already talked to Paul on LinkedIn, and I definitely plan to come in person for the next one. And we have been using Power BI for the last 6 years or so, lots of tabular modeling and stuff like that. And recently we have been designing some reasonably complex dashboards and, sprinkling some Python codes and Python libraries, as and when needed. So that's our data journey, and hopefully we continue to do more and more.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. I'm going to go through a few things. We have a guest speaker today, Belinda Allen, that has joined us. When it comes time, I'll let her introduce herself and go through her topic that we'll transition over to her. But to start off, first things we're going to go through just some quick updates on Power BI, talk about some events coming up, and then we'll go through the presentation and we'll have Q&A. Obviously, as we go through the presentation, any questions you have, put them in the chat and we'll get them to Belinda to be able to answer as we go through. But first off, so our Meetup site, if you haven't joined our Meetup site and you just found us, please see if you can join the site as well so you can stay up to date on the events that we're posting out there. We'll have both meetups like this where we do and present a topic, and then we'll have a networking event in between our meetups that we do the topics to all get together and meet each other potentially in person if we're virtual right now, and some in person. Between our last presentation and the presentation today, we've had several updates to Power BI, some with some pretty big feature changes. We had a March, April, and May change all roll out before this. As you can see, here are some of the top changes. I took a screenshot of just the change list from the Power BI blog that gets posted. So if you're not familiar with this page, I would recommend going out and looking at it so you can see what comes out each month when they roll out any updates. Some of these big ones, as you can see, might be doubled up on here a little bit. One being in preview or just multiple updates. The biggest one you see in each one is the format pane. It was, I think, as of recently, a very large change to the way things were done in Power BI and made it a little bit different for how people used Power BI interface when developing reports. The other big thing that I wanted to talk about was in May, at the beginning of May, the Power BI and Microsoft released a new page called the Power BI Known Issues page. This I've found to be very helpful if I'm looking at something and I'm using Power BI and something's just not working right. I come out to the known Power BI issues page and see if it's actually a known issue that they're working through. What Microsoft will do is they'll post out all the current issues as well as some recently closed issues to keep you up to date of things that they're solving or things that people are reporting are issues. It's a great way to make sure that if you're seeing something, you're not sure if it's an open issue, you can double check on the active issues on this page. Next up, events. We have some conferences coming up. First one starting would be the Community Summit. This is one in October. This is one of the bigger ones that kind of brings all of the Power Platform and dynamic communities together to be able to present on several different topics. Belinda, I don't know if this is one that you were going to talk about going to, but this is one that we have coming up, and then there is also the Power Platform conference as well. This one specifically focused on Power Platform, so Power BI, Power Apps, the whole Power Suite with several different speakers and sessions to be able to go to. And then we have some upcoming events as well. So we have an in-person networking event in July that we'll be doing, as well as a September presentation, and then another networking event again in November. So we have a kind of every couple months that we're kind of hosting events.
Hey, Josh, we're still only seeing the known Power BI issues page.
I see the events page.
Okay, that's just us. Thanks.
Sorry, Paul.
All right. So that's the big things I wanted to cover. So next up, we're going to jump into our main speaker. We have Belinda Allen with us today, who will be presenting on making Power BI easy for end users to encourage adoption.
Yeah, so let me share my screen. And now let me get your faces back. Okay. All right. So my machine's probably, its tongue's probably hanging out. I don't know if some of you heard me say, but I had to fill in last minute for a course, teaching a course to a group in the UK. So my training class started at 4 a.m. So that was pretty much torture. So this is it. After this, I'm putting on my PJs and crawling in bed. So before I get into the topic, just a little bit about me. I'll introduce myself. My name's Belinda Allen. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, although I lived the longest amount of my life in New York City. My dad was a Marine, so I kind of just consider myself a person from the US. but I now think of myself as both a Southerner and a Yankee, all rolled into one. I've been a Microsoft partner for over 31 years. I started with the GP family, and so I've been in technology 31 years. I've been a Microsoft partner since Microsoft purchased them in 2001, Great Plains, that is. I'm a Microsoft MVP, been one for 10 years, 5 years for Power BI, and 5 years before that for GP. I am a Microsoft certified trainer as well. They don't count the hiatus in the middle, so I guess I shouldn't either. So 12 years. I've co-authored a couple books on GP and business intelligence with the wonderful Mark Polino. For those of you in the GP space, you know him, or anyone who's familiar with FastPath probably knows him. He's a pretty cool guy. And I love learning and I love hobbies. So that's me in a nutshell. The conference I mentioned, I am going to both of the conferences that you mentioned. I am going to both of them. However, I am also in September, there is Data Insights in Chicago. This is run by, they've just started, can you guys hear me okay? Okay, and
Yep.
Angela was saying she's missing sound. Okay, this is run by Radicad. So those of you who are familiar with Resurad, Leila Ate, it is their group. I am going to be there. They're still cleaning up the conference schedule. However, I will be there beforehand doing a workshop. This is extra from the thing for anyone who's interested in taking their skills and polishing them up so they can take the PL 300 exam, which is the data analyst exam. So I have a workshop there, and then hopefully I'll be presenting there as well. So that is the first of my 3 conference tour that I'll be doing. And for those of you in the room, particularly Angela, you piqued my interest, and Sutton, was that your name? Is that your last name? Oh, you're on mute. What?
Angela Wells, are you asking about me?
Yeah, and yeah, Angela Wells, and then in the conference room.
That's gonna be Casper.
Yeah, okay. And you also said something that intrigued me. So I thought I quickly had this slide in there really fast. So sorry, gentlemen in the room. But my MVP topic, this is 3 years running. This is like my MVP special project, has to do with diversity in technology. And if any of you women in the room are interested in, thank you, Seth. And if any of you women are in the room, or Paul for putting your name in, are interested in signing up to take the PL 300 exam, and you're willing to commit some time between now and the end of June to do it, you'd have to take the exam by the end of June. I can help you do stuff at no charge. Microsoft has given me access to exam vouchers. I've created training. It's all just for women. So sorry, gentlemen in the room, but we're trying to encourage more women in this space. It's a project of mine. So women, note my email address in the chat and think about it and let me know sooner rather than later. So maybe tomorrow. Hint, hint, hint. Okay. Oh, and I just sent a message of nothing because I clicked the wrong button. All right. So on to today's topic. My topic for this year is Power BI user adoption. And it's funny that I didn't know I was going to have this as my topic of the year. I didn't know in January I was going to have this as my topic of the year. But somewhere around the 20th of January, it dawned on me that I was talking about user adoption every single day of the year so far. And I said, that's it. I guess I was meant to talk about user adoption because it is different. Power BI, like a CRM system, there's nothing to force users into using a Power BI report. Not really. I mean, like a salesperson, if they're looking at reports, they could get away without using Power BI. They might not be good at their job, but they could get away without using it. So trying to win these people over is a big deal. And quite frankly, some of the topics that I'm going to be talking about they pertain regardless of whether you're thinking of Power BI or any other software application, but I do have a slant more toward Power BI on everything. So who is this session for? This session is for these Power BI roles, and these are typical, this is Belinda's drawing of a Microsoft slide of the process. You can see the process of data modeling and visualization from access around to sharing. And I've just kind of color coded them, access, cleaning, and mashing of data. If they may belong to a person with the role of data ingest or dev developer or dev person, exploring and visualization, maybe a data analyst, and sharing, maybe an admin. In your organization, you may do all the roles. You may have 8 people who do these 6 roles. I don't know. But in any event, this is who this session is for. Now, this session is about the report consumer, the end user. So when I talk about the end user, that's who I'm talking about, the report consumer. And, you know, we really need to deliver technology to our end users. When I was right out of college, I was my last year in college, I was working for Holiday Corporation at a Holiday Inn hotel. And at that point, Holiday Inn owned Hampton Inn hotels. That was before Hilton bought them. And I went to work. As soon as I graduated, I became a general manager of the 4th Hampton Inn. So I'm aging myself. But I was there at the 4th Hampton Inn. I wasn't their first general manager, but it was pretty close. We'll just leave it at that. And one of the things that we did every night, we were a business hotel. So we were completely sold out from Sunday to Thursday. Friday and Saturday night, our hotel was almost empty. So every Friday, I would calculate how much profit each of our occupied rooms made during the week. I would then tell the front desk people before I left for the day, you can negotiate down to this rate. And I knew I was still making money and I was increasing occupancy. So they might sell a room for significantly less than whatever the book rate was, but I was still making money and I was increasing my occupancy. So giving them information, giving them access to this information allowed them to be better at their jobs. So I want to point out this is an ideas session and not a how-to session. So I'm hoping I get a win if at some point each one of you go, I'm going to think about that. I win, right? So I'm looking for that from at least most of you. So the agenda of this is we're going to talk about why user adoption is important with Power BI. And then why do some people resist? And then I'm going to talk about stories from my own personal experience. Most of them come from the GP world. So, but that's okay. It's still handling user resistance and the reason for resisting. And then I'll share some ideas in the Power BI space on how you can overcome them. And then we could do Q&A throughout. It doesn't have to wait till the end, but we have Q&A at the end too. Okay, so why is user adoption important? Whoops, did I miss something? Oh yeah, I do want to point out user adoption is important because we need our users to really to adopt Power BI so that they can, because if they embrace the technology involved, then they're going to help whatever reason is driving the methodology for Power BI to exist in the first place. They're going to increase that and there's going to be a return on investment. So especially those of you who are consultants, that's a big deal. But those of you who are project owners and project managers, and it's important for you as well too, because you don't want to implement an idea or a thought process as part of your Power BI methodology, only to have it fall on their face because some, Bubba down the hall, sorry, I'm Southern, so Bubba's just an analogy for everything. Some Bubba down the hall is, grumbling about having to access things. Now, Power BI is not like the experience that existed in the movie Field of Dreams. Remember the big tagline? It's right on the screen. If you build it, they will come. Okay, that does not happen with Power BI. It is not like a dog food bowl that you put out and they all come running. So there are innovators in every group, and the innovators will just jump to it and flock to it right away. but most people will either just hold back a little bit or they'll be resistors. And I want to tell you a story about when I was a resistor. So I was not quite using this machine. I had finally gone to Windows, but it was pretty close to using this machine. I was a big Lotus 123 user. And when Windows first came out, so what was that, 93, 94, 93, maybe 92. We had Excel in our office when it came out. And my business partner and my husband, who's my husband, said, you need to try Excel. And I was like, no, I love Lotus 123. I'm not switching. And I was a resistor, like, nope, nope, nope. And he said, give it a try. So I pulled it up and I'm like, nope, don't like it. I know Lotus 123. I'm not switching. Well, one time I had to parse a column or text a column. It was a lot more difficult inside of, I used Quattro Pro too. It was a lot more difficult inside Excel, or at least I couldn't remember how to do it. It wasn't easy to find. So I was struggling and I had to get some work out for a customer. So I said, I'm just going to try Excel, because at that point you could take a Lotus file and open it in Excel, because Excel was trying to win over Lotus users. So I did that and I immediately found text to column and I stopped and I said, I'm an Excel user now. I mean, that was all it took. It didn't take much. But at that point, not only did I become an Excel user, I became an Excel champion. And I started telling everyone around me, oh, I find Excel easier. And these are all the reasons why I find Excel easier. So I became a champion and I started sharing my story with other people. Now, I want to share I'm going to put this in the chat. This is a link I want to share with you. And I have a couple of my slides are just directly from this. There we go. Directly from here. This is the Power Platform user adoption page. And I do want to point out, even though Power BI is part of Power Platform, the fact that Power BI technically belongs to Azure more than it belongs to Dynamics puts us in a weird space. And so this book doesn't cover a lot of Power BI, but it has some awesome content in it. Actually, it's not a book, it's a Power Platform or a PowerPoint. So if you go to this website that I put in this dark gray area, you could download the workbook. It's like an 85-page PowerPoint, and there is some great material in it. One of the pieces that's great, slide came straight from the book, is this planning and adoption process. And we're really talking about the build, plan, and the onboard in this session, but understanding, but I'm going to talk about assembling the team first, because this is just powerful. And then I'll touch on the assessment of the readiness. So when we're talking about this, when you were, sorry, I've been talking all day and I'm suffering from allergies, so my throat's sore. When you're talking about this, you need to define your roles before you get started. And note, one of them is champion. You can see champions listed right there on the spot. And I can't stress how important this is. There's champions, and you need to figure out who in the room is champions, and you need to get them help, all the help they need, because they're going to be out there spreading the word with you. So by all means, identify your champions. You need to know who your executive sponsors are and some of the other things, but a lot of people just fail to go, hey, you know what? I know Steve Erbach. Steve Erbach's going to love this and he's going to embrace it. He's going to start sharing it with everybody. And you need to know that ahead of time so that you could focus on them. And champions are a big deal, driving the champion. So this came directly from the slide, but I added Power BI in there. So because I think it's the same thing. So let's talk about what a champion is. Champions are essential for driving awareness and adoption and education through everybody. A champion is the go-to person in your company or in some of your customers' company. Everyone knows who the go-to person for Excel is. There is no reason why that same type of scenario cannot involve champions. So let me find my slide deck again. I'm going to put that link in there as well. Although I should and can download this all as a PDF, but here we go. And there we go. Okay. So that's champions. And then the other thing I really wanted to point out is this is not part of their job. They just do it because they love it, right? They get excited about it. They see how it's going to change their life. So that's how they feel. So that's why we need to embrace our champions. They're the ones that's going to help with all user adoptions. And we do not want them to get excited about it only for a project to fail and make them look bad either. So that's another reason. Now, can you have a good Power BI strategy that's successful without champions? You sure can, but I wouldn't want to do it if I were you, because it's going to be a hard row to hoe, as they say in the South. Okay, so what we have to do is win our users over one at a time. And I put this in because I meet with a study group every week, and one of my friends from Kentucky, David Prewitt, he's like, he's Southern, and it's really kind of funny. He goes, "Oh, so it's kind of like the wave." And I'm like, you know what? It really kind of is. So if you look at the visual on, oh, I think I missed clicking on it. Oh, what is going on? Oh, did I miss my whole wave thing? Let's try it again. One more. Well, here we go. We'll just do it this way. Well, it's not working, but that should be the full wave where everyone is like the champions in the middle, making everybody work. Unlike this one, where you don't want the champion to be left hanging out there alone. I can't believe that one's cannot play media. Cannot believe that. That's crazy. All right, so we want to do everything we can to support the champion. We want to also make sure, and this, well, it's necessary if we want to have data culture, but we want to make sure anyone who is starting to adopt data culture in our organization, that we get more of those people than the ones that are fighting it. In marketing, there's something called a 3-11 rule. Something good happens, you tell 3 people. Something bad happens, you tell 11. So we need to make 4 champions for every 1 resistor. And if you think about this, this is true. So think about the last time you went to a fast food restaurant and you had a terrible experience. How many people did you tell? Now think about a time where you went and they smiled and they gave you good service, and maybe they even gave you a coupon for your next visit because they see you a lot. How many people did you tell that time? Probably not that many. So we all run out and tell the bad things, but very rarely do we go out and tell the good things. So we need 4 champions for every 1 resistor. So keep that in mind. So let's talk about why some people resist or dissent. I like to call them resistors. That guide I sent you to, they call them dissenters, but well, I guess they call them more resistors. I don't know, but I just like resistor, and I like dissenter too. But the next 4 slides come directly from that manual. I'm not going to read them. I just want to touch a few points with them, and I want to encourage you to go to the manual. So not only did they tell us already you need to identify that champion, but it also reminds us that resistance is normal and we need to anticipate it. Don't be surprised. We need to make sure it's part of our plan from the very beginning. And we need to have, as part of our plans, a strategy and techniques that we use to handle this situation. Listening is a really good thing, like focusing on what they're really trying to say instead of what they're actually saying. But again, and they're talking about converting the strongest dissenters, but there's some adoption plans in there. I just wanted to point that out. And this one, make sure that when you're communicating with your contact, your lead, whoever is the buy-in or the backer of the whole project, make sure that you communicate with them. Okay, we're going to have resistors. All software projects do. So these are the plans that we have to handle resistors, so that when you have a resisting situation come up, they're not surprised by it either. They're not like, wow, I thought everybody would love it. They're going to go, oh, okay, got it. So we're handling that, right? Yes, I'm handling it, so you don't have to worry about it. And then it even gives you some guidance on resisting. And so I'm not going to get into the detail on that. I just wanted to encourage you to go to the deck. But I did pull flat out from the deck the ones that I think are the common reasons that people resist. So Josh, I'm counting on you. If someone has a question, you come off mute and you just holler right in, because I've got you guys over here now.
Yep.
All right. So these are the reasons. People don't have time. People don't know what they, and don't you love the ones that don't have time to do it right, but have time to do it over? People don't know what to build. That's a big one. People are not passionate. They're not warming up to the idea. They don't see the value. In other words, they're saying, hey, what's in it for me? to learn it and to use it. People are worried that there's not going to be sufficient training for new ways of working. Now, I took 2 of the Microsoft ones and put them together in there. It all evolves. They're worried they're not going to be trained right. They're not going to know how to use it. And in that, I'm also going to point out one other important thing. There are a lot of people in the world that have, I don't want to call them mental health issues, but they think differently about things. And the idea of not knowing how to use something and the possibility of getting embarrassed is paralyzing to some people. And you don't want to underestimate that. I have several family members that have social anxiety disorder, and that's what it really is. It is not being afraid of other people. It's the fear that you're being judged. And even though your head goes, they're not judging you, it doesn't change the way you feel, and that's your perception, and perception is reality. So we need to be aware of that and thoughtful of that anytime we do anything. And then finally, people don't like change. They don't want change, period. Remember me with Lotus? I'm like, nope, love Lotus. Been working on Lotus since college, not changing. And in other words, I know my job and I don't want to change my task.
So we
That's
got a
what they're
question
saying.
for you.
Yeah.
IT leadership experienced shadow IT back when Access database flooded their environments. Any specific guidance? Similar to people who are afraid of losing their job.
Yeah. I don't see BI will never take away anyone's job. If anything, it's going to increase the job. So part of the process when you're talking to people, and I would love to hear if any of you disagree with me on that. If you are encouraging them to, like, hey, you jump on board, you are jumping on a relatively new bandwagon that is revolutionizing things. Data has always been the most valuable, or information, I guess I should say, has always been the most valuable asset of any company ever. Maybe it's the customer list. And if you don't believe that, say, okay, then let's take the customer list and give it to our competitor and see what happens, right? That is our proprietary information. And if you learn how to find cool things there, not only are you job secure, but you are king, right? Or queen, depending on. So I don't see job loss. I see open opportunity in here. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I encourage is trying to find people opportunities to save time, which prevents having to hire somebody just because you're working overtime. The goal would be like, we don't want you working overtime. We want you working happy. We want you working efficiently. We want you making the company better. And when you're happy and you're going to work better and the company's going to be better, and it's not necessarily a job change. I don't see this is not the same thing as we're going to have someone in the booth taking tolls, as opposed to people coming up and throwing money in a toll machine. Not the same thing at all. This is not going to, this whole data world. I mean, there are jobs today that didn't exist yesterday. So Greg and I are in a book club, Chris Wagner's book club together. And it was like last Saturday or a week ago Saturday, Chris Wagner said to me, I've heard of a new job title and I want it one day. And I said, what's that? And he goes, CAO, Chief Analyst Officer. Well, now I mostly just do training. So it's just me and my husband. I'm like, guess what? I just got a different job title and I'm now CAO. I mean, that title I didn't even exist a year ago, probably, right? So this is a whole new world. Talk about job security. Learning this, you have job security. I just seriously, and job opportunity like there's no tomorrow. So I think that would be my response to that right away. And so encouraging them to get on board and hey, the more they learn to do things, the more they could find out. Because the worst thing that, about any kind of data is we don't know what we don't know. So sometimes you don't know where to start. So if they could learn how to let the tool help them find something, valuable and then be able to tell the story with it, boom, life-changing moment, not the firing kind, the promoting kind, right? The job opportunity kind from other places. So yes, totally. I hope that answers the question, but I honestly believe that this space is so crazy. I have been so busy since the pandemic started. I am besides myself. I'm turning down business because there's just too much to do. It's just too much. And it's just people wanting to make their information better. So I would encourage all IT people to jump on board. I would encourage anyone in the finance department to jump on board. And I would encourage some key people in sales and manufacturing to jump on board. So lots and lots of opportunity here. Now, this last one especially, are the ones that are highlighted. I don't want my job to change and what's in it for me. I am a giant fan of Simon Sinek, right? So he and Seth Godin, they are my 2000 version of Tom Peters in the 1900s, as being awesome business gurus. So those of you who don't know who Tom Peters is, that's usually a litmus test to see how old you are. So I can tell immediately if you don't know who he is, but he was also awesome. Simon Sinek, though, if you ever get a chance to see him in person, jump. And he wrote these two amazing books, Start With Why, and one of my favorite books ever, Leaders Eat Last. Love it, love it, love it. And I follow him on Facebook, and I don't even go in Facebook that often, but he posted this statement the other day. Value is something people feel, not something we tell them they get. And I was like, oh, yeah. That just kind of reminded me of something that we had always been taught when we were selling Great Plains software over all the years, which started in 1991. And that was, people buy benefits, they don't buy features. So people will adopt benefits, they will not adopt features. So we need to talk to them about the benefits they are going to get out of the system. And when they prosper, the business prospers. So we want to talk to them about where they spend most of their time, not just on reports, but on any task. Anything almost can be improved with Power Platform, but with Power BI. So let's go on the journey. We're going to meet our end users. These are them. We're implementing to them. So over on the far left, we have our innovator, right? Look at her. She's like, yay, Power BI. And so we're going to want to support her. We want to love her. We want to nurture her. We want her to help us convert everyone else. Then over on the far right, we have our dissenter. I'm sure you guessed that's who it was, because as soon as we walked in the room, he gave us the thumbs down. And then we have everyone else in the middle. So our job for the next portion of our time together is to convert all of these people and make them become champions. Maybe we can't make them become innovators, but we can make them become champions. And what we're going to do is encourage these people to become champions, assuming that all of the people in the blue, we're going to focus on them first, have one of those complaints that are one of those reasons to resist that we just talked about. Now, we talked about people don't have time. So some of you, I know, Steve, you've heard this story of mine before. But I had a customer, a GP customer, and I always asked them every time I would go visit, if I could do anything to make your job easier, what would it be besides answer the phone? And I always add besides answer the phone because I think that's funny, but also because, and it's all about me laughing at my own jokes, but also because I wanted him to think outside what he thought I was there to help him with. Right? I wanted him to think big picture, like my whole job, the whole company. What could she do to make my job easier besides answering the phone? And he told me, he said, well, we have empty batches. Batches, for those of you who aren't familiar with batch accounting, it's like a file folder. So you have AP invoices, you put them in these batches, and then somebody can approve them, and then they get committed to the system. Or while they're being approved, if they don't get approved, they could be changed. Maybe someone used the wrong general ledger account, and then you could approve them and post them. And I looked at him and I said, why do you have empty batches? And he went on just to explain to me, I won't go into big detail, but they had a requisition system. It would create individual batches, the individual batches multiple times through the day. It was too hard for him to go in and approve them and review them. So he had the AP person then manually move them all to a single batch. And then he had all these empty batches. And my head just about exploded because I thought, I see Steve laughing. Multiple things were wrong with that. And the least problem was the empty batches, right? Okay. So you're wasting the AP person's time manually moving them since you have this system that automatically brings them in for you. But what you're really telling me your problem is it's hard to review and approve them, period. It's hard. So you're trying to figure out how to make it easier on yourself. So along comes Belinda with a Power BI report. This is a Power BI report looking at batches. And this is all the unapproved batches in accounts payable. And he can narrow down a filter on department, by vendor, by batch ID. And notice I have other screens down at the bottom that you can't see in this picture. He could look at it in about 4 different ways to do mass review at one time. This is something you cannot do in GP. And it is a fact in GP, you typically have to print the report and look at it one invoice at a time to make sure it's right. He could do things in batches here. Then I've added in a Power app over here. And right now I just don't have it connected in this screenshot that shows all of the unapproved batches. So when he determines one's ready to be approved, he could click it and then click an approve button. And not only is it significantly easier for him to review, it's easier for him to approve. And the AP person isn't having to move everything. So what happened when I gave him this? The controller himself saved 4 hours a week. That's over 5 weeks of vacation a year. He became a champion. And this was something, kind of small and, just not that big of a deal to me, anyhow. So back, that controller moves over. We've won over another one. Run over the first one. So a similar scenario would be we have a credit order or a sales order on hold. And then we have this detail. This is also GP, for example, but not only am I getting GP numbers and various numbers for them to look at, I'm even giving them numbers that GP can't give them. So I have whatever the posted balance is. So I could see someone's keyed in $10,000 worth of payment, but they haven't posted them yet. I see they have $2,000 of invoices that haven't posted yet. But if they post the payments and post the invoices, this is the new balance due. Their credit limit's 40,000. Heck yeah, I'll approve that order. So once again, with this order here, and I don't have the app. This is an app over here on the right. All you have to do is click on remove, and that would remove the hold on the app and send an email out to the salesperson. And by the way, the previous one also sent an email out to the AP department saying that that batch was approved and ready to go. So basically, you need to find the worst itch for these people and you need to scratch it. That's basically all it boils down to. Okay. People don't know what they want to build. Oh my gosh, this is so true. And one of the interesting things about this is people are the ones that are like not wanting to be involved because they don't know what they want to build. They're probably not the one who's going to be building it anyhow, right? They're going to be a report consumer. I had a customer in New York who their board of directors was all doctors, and they wanted to turn their they're surgeons actually. They wanted to turn their financial statements into all graphical. And this was, well, before, I guess slightly after 9/11. So it was in the early 2000s. And they bought a server and gave it to me to put in my office to set it up. And so for 2 years, I would use different visual tools. This was long before Power BI, and then haul this heavy server to their office in a cab and then show them what I'd done. And they're like, yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah. And this went on for 2 years. Finally, that person retired, and someone who had risen through the ranks became the CFO. She came to a Power BI class of mine, and instead of building it herself, she just hired an intern and said, hey, this is what I want, build it. And so everyone was happy at that point. But still, you don't want to give everyone the access to build. If they don't know what they want to build, you're like, you know what, that's okay. Because we're going to build the report for you and give you opportunities to make it, to personalize it and make it your own. Now, here is where the ideas start coming in. Show of hands, do any of you use personalization in Power BI? One hand I see. So I'll assume that some of you that are off screen also raised your hand. So if you turn on personalization, this is a screenshot from Power BI service, from the web service. If you turn on personalization, let me get my little pen out because I love my pen and I love my writing pad. Okay, so you have this new little visual right there. That is a personalization visual. And when the end user selects it, they get, it's just fun to draw. They get this personalization screen where they could change the visual type and they could even change some of the values in it. Now, all you have to do is turn it on and they can do it, right? They're using your beautifully modeled data. So the hard part is done. And they're not having to figure out what to put on a report. They're only altering what they want to see. You're making it easy for them. And by the way, I'll show you how. Yeah, we don't want those people modeling the data anyhow, usually. If they can't figure out what they want, there's no way they'll get the data right. So if you go to options and settings under current file for that individual file, go to the report setting. All you have to do is turn this on. Now, if you want to control what people have access to, you could use Tabular Editor 2, which is a free version, open source version. But Belinda, I've made the perfect, yeah. Well, they're not getting rid of yours. They could always divert back, Paul. So they could always go back to your perfect, beautiful, just perfect visual and completely destroy it and then come back to yours at any point in time. All right. If you want to control what they can, what fields they can change, at that point, oh, there's Fernando. At that point, they can get Tabular Editor 2, which is free, and it's open source, and they could use that. Or if you're paying for Tabular Editor, a higher version, you could use that as well. Hi, Fernando! Yay! Okay, sorry. Now, you give someone the ability to create their own reports this way, and guess what? They're coming over to your side too. So we're making progress. Remember I said we needed to have 4 just to offset him? So
one there in the chat if you wanted to grab it there, Josh.
Oh, okay. What happens when they personalize and they refresh? Are there, okay, if they personalize it and they refresh, it's going to end up reverting back, but they can make a bookmark of it and always go back to where they were. And then they could go back to the original. They cannot change the original report. They could only change it for viewing or change it and make a bookmark of it and use it that way. And it's so simple to use. And here's the deal. Paul built a beautiful visual. Chances are they're going to make one attempt, maybe one attempt to make a personalized visual. And then they'll probably say, you know what, Paul's is best. So, okay.
Real quick, Belinda, on that, when it reverts, is that on a data refresh or when someone refreshes the report itself, or both?
When the report gets refreshed. I don't think the visualization will stay. Oh, that's a good question. I don't think the visualization will stay.
My experience is that those settings are for the particular user's session. They reset their browser in any way, it won't retain what they personalized. That's why the bookmarks are really go hand in hand with allowing personalization. They need to understand to immediately bookmark what they've
So
done.
as soon as they leave the report, it exits and that visualization is reset.
It may, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's come into, I think this one has something. And not that one. Go to the world of BC here. Nope, not, oh, custom.
My experience is it's like filters.
Nope,
The
not that
filters try to remember it based upon someone coming back to the report, but because that's all web-based stuff, it may lose it. So bookmarks go hand in hand.
Let's
Okay.
go back to that page and see what report that was. We did a cash flow custom visual. Oh, okay. So that was the new view one. I don't know that I'll be able to pull that back up.
That's okay.
Okay, but yeah, a good question though. Yeah. Very simple to do. Seriously, turn it on. And then if you do use tabular, you have to make a perspective in tabular. It's really very simple. It's ridiculously simple. But you make different perspectives, and then you can on the personalization on that visual, you can assign a perspective, so you can control what fields they can replace it with. So you still have some control. Okay, you get back over there. Okay, cool. All right, so let's
real quick, one more. You turn these on in the desktop or in the service?
in the desktop. So very simple. This is only a partial report that I use. You could see, don't peek behind the curtain. Okay, so if you go to File and Options and Settings and Options again, you come down to Data Load or scroll down, Report Setting. You got to scroll down to Report Setting, and Personalizations is right there. So personalizations is on in this one. So I probably will be able to connect and publish to it, but that's it. That's it.
All right.
It's shockingly simple, and even more shocking to me, it's underutilized because it's so much better. It's so much better than giving someone access to a data set and letting them build a report. This is, I mean, it's like this is like letting them bowl with the things in the lane so that they don't get in the gutter, so they don't get gutter balls. That's kind of what it's like. And so, by all means, take advantage of using it. Okay, people are not passionate. They're not warming up to the idea. They don't see the value. Remember, what's in it for me? We have to sell them on the value. Now, in this case, I find this to be not always about the value, but a lot of times this might be someone who is afraid to admit they don't know how to analyze data and they don't want to ask. I mean, there is an overwhelming number of people that are afraid to ask to learn how to do something. In the case of those surgeons I told you about, they never asked about questions about the financial statements. When they got financial statements in the old tabular format, not a single surgeon would ask a question about it. I was on their IT, I did like IT advisory for like ideas on how to improve IT in their company for a year with the controller, and not a single one asked. But now when they started using Power BI to visualize the reports, then they're all like asking questions for the first time because they're able to understand the data. So we need to think about how we can help people see value. So there's not only value in finding answers using AI that they didn't know to ask, but there's value in using some of these tools to show them how to do data analyst. And one of the best examples of this is my favorite visual, the decomposition tree. Love the decomp tree. Show of hands, who loves the decomp tree? 2 people? Oh my gosh, people get on board. Okay, here's why I love the decomp tree. So the thing about the decomp tree, and eventually this might be something that could be demoed. I probably could pull up some data set somewhere and do a demo of it. But what we have here is, pretend this is percent of growth. I don't know why in my example I use the one that's percent on back order, but pretend that's percent of growth. We don't know what we don't know. So we throw everything in the sink and say, I don't know, explain to me why my growth is increasing or decreasing, and I don't possibly know why. So it goes through all these steps to figure it out. And on the ones where you see, anytime you see a light bulb in Power BI, AI is behind the scenes working for you. So it will give you these breakdowns, and then you could switch and go down your own path if you want to. But you show someone how to use a decomposition tree to research data, and you now have won over a data analysis. Haven't you had that experience, Josh? I saw you raise your hand and see that. I mean, have you showed this to anyone and not got a wow?
No, most times when they see this, they want more of it, to be
Yes.
honest.
Yes. And you could even back it up by, here's one of the things that in this visual, they put another visual and some buttons here so that you could put filters and on it in place and see different things. So use the decomp tree, learn it. There is also the key influencer. I don't have this one on the screen, but if you're looking at sales, I know, mind blown, right, Fernando? It's incredible. One of the thing about the key influence and indicator, the key influencer that I like so much, not indicator, but the key influencer is, if you're looking at sales and you have enough descriptions of your customer, like what kind of customer they are, where they live geographically, maybe their age range, and you have a whole bunch of those, then the key influencer will tell you who your best customers are, and it will actually give you a persona. So your best customer lives in Green Bay, and it's typically a female between the ages of 18 and 25 who is attending college. And I mean, it gets like, it can get that granular for you. So, and then now they're like, well, dang, now I know who I need to sell to. So you can gain all kinds of cool information in here. And even the things that are as simple of explain the increase and decrease on a clustered column chart. I mean, it's just awesome. And those are all AI things that are just intuitive. Data insights, all of that, just use them. That will make someone move over. Okay, now we have outweighed, so we're in better shape here. But I'm still talking about the person who wants to build something and doesn't know what they want to build. So I have a page that I like to include. I used to have a financial report that I called, our whole company called it the Belinda report. Now this is my Belinda page. Basically, I take the Q&A visual and I'll put 4 Q&A visuals on a page so that an end user can make their own interactive report just by typing in questions. It is remarkably easy, and you can even go so far as to set the questions. Now, if you're going to do something like this, take advantage of the Q&A tooling tip, add synonyms. So if someone, old Martha down the hallway, she might type in, what's the volume, when she really means quantity. So put in a synonym, that volume means quantity. What is the, I can't even think of some of the other ones, but you could put in all kinds of synonyms. You can even come in and suggest your own questions. Now, if you do that, I do want to point that out. If you set your own suggest questions, all of the questions that Power BI came up with are going to be gone. That's okay. But keep that in mind. So you'll want to add all of your own questions that you possibly can. You can even come in as like one of the admin or the dev team and review all the questions that people are asking, because guess what? That is another golden spot to be able to build reports and insights from based on what people are asking. Also to get terminology right so that you can set that as well. And then teach is another place similar to synonyms. That's where we could say, take this phrase and it means this and so forth. So we can do all kinds of things and then even manage our terms. But by all means, take advantage of the Q&A. It's an oldie as far as Power BI goes, but it's a goodie. So and seriously, this is my favorite screen for people, because if they put a question in here or they select this question and they select this question and then they type in another question here, guess what? They have, for anything that has relationships built, they have just created their own interactive report, and they haven't touched a visual, Paul. Your visuals are still intact, right? And they haven't touched the data model at all. So it's win-win-win for you. And that is going to make somebody move over as well. Now, a lot of people are worried. I've talked about this, that there's not going to be sufficient training for the new ways of working. So I do have another link for you, if I can get to that slide. On the power empowering user and by mentoring. So if you're doing user adoption, I strongly encourage the practice of mentoring, or maybe even calling coaching sessions. Have like an hour during the process a week where you are, say, each week or every 2 weeks, depending on when you're doing it, and you're going to say, hey, office hours, this are office hours, you can come and ask anything, and or talk about anything, and let's just see what we have. Any ideas you have, let's bring that up too. So it's going to help some of those people feel a little bit better. But now comes some of the other stuff that I love. So on your reports, let's make it easier for them. There is a visual called Smart Narratives. Who's using Smart Narratives? Raise your hand. One hand. Okay, I'm going to pretend that all the people who are not on screen were all like, oh, me. Okay, Smart Narratives. I know Fernando, you know. Oh, thank you, Raul. And I know Fernando, he knows I love this too. And he's heard me talk about it multiple times. But the Smart Narrative is basically, oh, no Smart Narratives here. Ugh. The Smart Narrative is just text statements. So for some people that are afraid of visuals and afraid to learn, just give them a sentence. Now, you don't have to come in and write this sentence. This sentence is going to pop up. Yes, even more with financial data, it's a bigger deal. Yes, this sentence will pop up based on the visuals that you have in place and the filters you have in place. You change the year from 2027 to 2018, then all of a sudden the smart narratives are going to change. You could even add your own and type them in. I know, Paul, it's text, but some people like it. So one of the smartest ideas I've seen for like smart narratives, and it was for a custom one, so it didn't work out, but I still like the thought process behind it, was from our friend Chris Wagner, who I adore. And he thought of it kind of like a newspaper, right? It's newspaper text. It's the newspaper story. I like to, oh, do you have something to say, Josh? Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
I was just saying, who reads newspapers anymore?
Who prints them? That's what I want to know. Went too far. I like to use smart narratives in my title. That way I could even put like numbers in my title as part of the text. But love the idea. I guarantee you someone in the company will love smart narratives. They will love it. Seeing that text and like read this one, actual jump from this to this during its steepest incline. That's something that they would never see looking at tables of data like this, which is something that they are usually interested in, or they might have a hard time deriving from this. Okay, so Wallace said trying to get users to use it so they can automate their monthly PowerPoint. Yep. I have some people that I have built out. I have like all of these pages that they export to PowerPoint, and then all the pages are repeated with smart narratives. So it's just telling them text they can add manually to it. And then when they get it into PowerPoint, they just delete the pages with the smart narrative. And so they have some explanation. And that's okay. It all works. It's all good. Okay.
We've
So
used it where we've put it behind a button, so it's not on your page. So if you want all visuals, you have all visuals, and you have a button that then appears the smart narrative when someone wants it.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. So we did move someone over. If I go back, there he goes. Look, woo, he's sliding over. Okay, we only have 3 people left, and one of them is our hardest nut to crack. Okay, so speaking and playing off of what Josh just said, looky there, Josh, you were so spot on. I put a help button, a help question, and you can have like text pop up on things, and you can do all sorts of things. If you are comfortable with bookmarks and like them, you could literally put explanations of every visual on the screen, put a help icon. If they click it, the whole page will light up with explanations for every visual. And then if they click it again or turn it off, then they'll all disappear so that they're not blocking the visuals themselves. So putting this online help in makes it even more self-explanatory on how to read and use the visuals. So take advantage of bookmarks, tooltips, actionable buttons. Do it, do it, do it.
Do you find it easier to use the question mark button or the help icon on each of the visuals?
It depends on how you want to build it out. I don't want it blocking anything. And actually, a friend of Fernando's and mine, he actually made tooltips that are GIFs that show how to use it, and then you can click on a tooltip and then get to the GIF or put on a visual, and then it'll show some things in action, which is kind of cool, or GIF, depending on how you want to call it, which is kind of cool, but it really depends upon the audience. So I kind of do both depending on the needs. If I don't like to put a lot of visuals on a page, it's bad for performance anyhow. I mean, the fewer visuals on the page, it's bad for performance, but it's also harder for people to read and absorb the data. And so don't overdo it just because you can and because you think it's cool, even though I probably would think it's cool too. But for end users, it's not always cool. So keeping it down. And in that case, I like having a lot of space around everything. So wherever they're more comfortable using it, I think is fine. Either one would be fine. But take advantage of tooltips, actionable buttons, and bookmarks. And by all means, take advantage of those. You will move someone else over if you do that. Now, people don't like change. They don't want it. And there's not a lot we could do about it if it's just they hate change for the sake of change, right? It's like, I don't want to learn it. I just don't. I don't want to learn anything new. I don't like learning anything new, and I'm not learning anything new. So I guess that's a little hard to contend with if you're not getting anything. But if you keep talking them and you find out it's just tough because there's just so much, like there's a lot on the screen. It just doesn't look like something that I want to change to. I don't like the way it looks. I hear that. I've heard that one about software all all of my career. One time someone actually deleted something important, and then they actually, the CFO called us up yelling at us because he said the delete button should have been red. And I was like, hey, I didn't write the software. This is Microsoft software. If you want it red, we can make it red, but you're going to have to pay for it to be red. I would stick to people just reading the button, if I were you. So, but anyhow, there are a couple things we can do. And one of them is take Power BI to where they work. So this is Power BI from the desktop, not Power BI desktop. All right, this is Power BI from the Microsoft Store, not Power BI desktop, but Power BI. This is a visual like a mobile app of Power BI that reads things that are on the cloud, and look how much cleaner it is, right? All of that noise in Power BI, that's why I'm a giant Power BI app person, because there's so much noise on Power BI. Some people just get afraid of using it. So let them work in the mobile app, let them work on their tablet, let them work on their phone. If they're using Teams, show them how to put in a Power App in their Teams. Then there's going to be less resistance from it, especially if they like Teams and they like communicating in Teams. Showing them how to take that report and continue communicating in Teams about things is going to be helpful. But taking Power BI to where they work and how they work is going to reduce the learning curve dramatically, which is usually the reason that people are resistant to change. And then there's always that Excel guy, right? Or gal. I'm using the name generically. I'm actually trying to quit using the word guy, and it's really difficult. So at least I'm being conscious of it and stopping myself and correcting myself. But I believe guy's gender neutral, but some people don't, so it's okay. I could switch. So my recommendation for the Excel person is show them the Power BI dataset feature in Excel. Maybe even take them under your wing while you're doing data modeling. Show them how to use Power Query in Excel. Chances are they may not even know it exists. And now all of a sudden, you've shown them something cool. They're helping you check your data to make sure your data's flowing right. They're even more the Power BI go-to person or the Excel go-to person. And chances are, once they get comfortable with the data set and they know that your data is a good source of the truth, they'll start working their way into Power BI. It's going to be a natural progression. So I've seen that happen because they get the power of the single source of the truth, how different pieces of data can work up differently. Okay, so I'm almost done. Thank you, Paul. I want to talk about the UX, make sure that the UX is explainable. I'll skip that and I'll come into here. All of these attributes are incredibly important. This is a book I got some time ago when I was learning to write in C#. No, I can't write in C#. Yes, I took the full class and completed it and wrote all the required apps. And no, I can't write in C#. Okay, so is it useful? Think about this when you're writing your reports. Is it useful? Is it learnable? Is it memorable? Is it effective? These are things we need to think about on our report pages. Are they efficient, desirable, and delightful? By all means, think about these things when you're building your reports pages. If they're pretty, people will use them. Naming conventions. I am all about embracing the space. Make your names mean something. Yeah, make your names. It's still, people are still reading that book. Make the names mean something. Make them logical. Reduce the number of fields that people see. Hide them if you have to. Put things in in folders in the data set so that people could collapse up things like amounts and see things better. That is so much better. But definitely hide any of those duplicate fields, especially in your fact tables. You do not want somebody putting a filter on the clothing ID in the sales. You want them putting it in the clothing ID in the dimension table. Otherwise, you will spend hopefully minutes, but you could spend hours looking for why the report is not yielding the right result because they chose the wrong slicer. Just these kinds of things will move that person over. Now, are these tips going to work for all non-innovators? No, but hopefully peer pressure will convert some of the other ones, and your dissenter may at that point at least move over to the middle and stop giving you the thumbs down. And booyah, I finished just in time. Oh, come on, coming, Fernanda, don't pick on that. C# is an awesome tool. I just am not good at writing it. That's all it's about. I'm horrible. I could be found, booyah. I could be found at all things, typically Ms. Belinda Allen, LinkedIn, Twitter, website, so, and YouTube channel. But these are, oh, and this link down here, measuring the success, this is Matthew Roche's website. And this measuring success and satisfaction, it's really talking about customers, but the same thing applies to end users as well. We need to think about our end users as being, even if we're in the same company, we need to think about them as being in our customers when we're building out reports. So yeah, he does have great stuff. So I want you to at least think about this because this is a really big deal. You do not want to, this is how you would end up losing a job. You put in a lot of effort, a lot of time putting a Power BI project together only to have some dissenter in the back corner just badmouth it so much that nobody even wants to give it a try. Unfortunately, I've seen that happen.
One question for you. Do you have champions that eventually become innovators?
Yes, absolutely. That one company I told you about that that hired an intern to do it. I mean, they now everything in their company has Power BI going in it, not just the financial statement. But yes, champions can become innovators for you. And then especially the job security question that we were talking about. No innovator is going to be fired as long as what they're bringing to the table is positive toward the company's success. You find that one thing that nobody knew existed. I had a customer one time, this was back in 1995. I know that because Windows 95 had just come out. And he said, I was building crystal reports for him. He said, build me a sales report for these 5 people. And I said, are these 5 customers? And I said, okay, glad. Why these 5? And he said, because they're my top 5 customers. Well, I knew that Crystal had top N. So I said, let's just see about that. And he was like, he thought that was funny. He's like, okay, yeah. So fortunately he took it well. And so I went in and I said, did top 5. And he was wrong. He had 4 of the top 5. Actually, he had 5 of the top 6. What happened was someone snuck into number 5 that bought the mistakes that they manufactured. That told him 2 things. One, we have a manufacturing problem we need to resolve because we're losing money, obviously. And 2, there's an opportunity for me to have a product that doesn't quite cost me as much to make without losing quality. Maybe we don't make it as fancy, and sell it at a lower price. And he did both of those things. He fixed it and he was able to resolve it. So yes, basically using PBI usage to measure adoption, that is a definite way to measure it for sure. So there's Fernanda's face. Hey, Fernanda. Okay, so that's my passion of the year. I am working on, I will probably be starting early summer. I want to actually build out reports that just do what we just talked about from like beginning to end and kind of walk through them. So I hope all of you had at least a moment or learned something new. Thank you, Raul. Thank you, Wallo. And that's Belinda at the end of a 12-hour day.
Well, thank you for coming and presenting. I think a lot of people had great takeaways from this, which was great. I know I had a few that I'm going to take back to my team and talk through as well. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, if you do nothing else, download that 85-page PowerPoint and see if there's a nugget in there for you.
All right.
Will do.
Thanks,
Now,
everyone. Good to see everyone.
before anybody
Bye,
drops
Fernanda.
off completely, we're going to network a bit in person, and I'm going to encourage Josh to not let anybody off until they've turned on their camera to say thank you to Belinda and talk to some of the others there online, but we're going to separate the in-person and the online. I don't see any of you dropping off yet, but just us. So see you guys later.
And women, Debbie and Angela and Sethan. Did I remember right?
Yes.
Yes.
Sethan, my email's in there, belinda@saci.com. If you're willing to try to get PL 300 certified by the end of June, all you need to do is put in the time. I can make everything else better.
Oh, that'll be a heavy lift for me since the month of June, I only work half days, but we'll see.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you
Bye, Paul.
folks later.
Bye, thanks.
Bye, thank you.
Belinda, what from timing and how long it takes to go through the course to do that PL stuff? What kind of effort does it take?
So
I was going to ask too, because I'm not familiar with that certification or what's required.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that certification is the data analyst certification. It is replacing the DA 100. So Microsoft, they recognize that the DA 100 was too much for the first Power BI exam. So they took some of the content out, not a lot, but they took some of it out. They basically shortened the course itself from a 4-day to a 3-day course. And so, but it's basically the same content. It's the same certification. Then they've added in a DP 500, which is an enterprise Power BI certification. So they have broken those two pieces up. I'll find a link for the certification. And I'm actually building content out on-demand content. And for the women, what I'm doing is I have been given authority to help try to get 100 women certified by the end of the year. So this is what I've been trying to do. And so I've been working hard at it. And here comes the content, but it's basically the same thing as the DA 100. And if you have the DA 100, you could just renew it. You don't have to go through everything else again. But it is all data analyst stuff. It covers. It's really. I'll tell you what. I'm thinking I probably should have a presentation that I build on things that surprised me when I would going through the PL 300 material that I didn't know or hadn't thought about or things like that. And so, but it's all about like enhancing the database, improving performance, using some of the built-in tools like the column distribution a little more wisely, thinking about the cardinality of not just the direction of relationships, but the cardinality of the quantity, the uniqueness of the field itself, and what that could do to the speed of the data set. So those are all pretty interesting things to me. So I'm doing the course. I'm gonna it's online, so it could be done over a 30-day period. But and it'll be completed by the end of next week. It's been something I've been having to work on around my regular work to do. But then I'm going to make it available for everyone for a fee. But I have slots for Microsoft actually paid for 100 women. And what actually happened was it was supposed to be 100 people because I also have a group in Lagos, Nigeria I'm working with. And then Microsoft said, no, we're going to separate them out. So I now have some extra spots. Or like, fill it with women, fill it with women. And discount codes for the certification. Yeah, if you Shilpa, are you male or female? I hate to ask that, but they're particularly flagged for people of let me just ask you a yes no question. If you are female or marginal, oh, you're female. Okay, we can stop there. Yeah, I do. Send me a link and I can give you I can get you the started in the process to get a free exam voucher.
So I just dropped your email back in the chat.
Thank you.
Yep.
So
So
for the women,
for a certification like this, is like, do you have to have like a project or something to get certified? I'm like completely unfamiliar with this, completely new.
no.
So
You
you
have
would
to
take
know
the
that-
course and take the test, or what is, how
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
for the women, you could sign up for the online thing and have access to it through the end of June. But yeah, you just go through the course material and then you take the test. And if you think you're going to go through everything and get the exam, because the exams do expire at the end of June and we really want them used, you need to go ahead and sign up for the exam because you don't want to be, it's the end of the Microsoft year and seats fill up. So also for any men of color, so it's not just women, it's any people of color, you can we can get you in and work with you, and then anyone who is gender marginalized or anyone who is differently abled, all of those people, yes you are, Raul, all of those people can get access typically, and it's part of my process. So I'm just like so honored by Microsoft to give me I recognized from your name that you were probably, not as blue-white as my Southern husband. So totally get that. So he doesn't get an exam voucher for anything. Sorry, Josh, you don't either.
Understand.
So, but yeah, it's trying to get just more diversity in the room is really what it's all about. And so, and it goes all the way up to Arun and like the very top of Power BI. So I know Josh has to go. He's got that look like he's got.
No, I'm good. I
Oh.
did have another question.
Okay.
How much experience with the Power BI tool would you recommend? So I have 2 female interns starting in 2 weeks, and I'm wondering if because they're going to be specialized in Power BI, if I should send them through your course to do this, but they haven't really worked with Power BI at all.
Okay, so here's the thing. I try to, here, I probably could do this. There is let me go to YouTube. If you started with,
Yes, Raul, will send her an email.
yeah, send me an email and then I can work on getting you on the list. let me go. I did a session at Dynamics Con last September, I think it was. And that, let me find it. I do a lot of them for them. I do it. Let's see, not that one, not that one, not. Here we go. How do I get started with Power BI? So let me set, sorry, it started playing. So let me get the share link. Put this in here. This 50-minute session, I kind of go through, like, for someone, how do I get started? I talk about different versions of Power BI pricing, and I briefly touch on how a report gets built, but I'm not getting into the details. If they watch that first, they would probably be okay taking the exam, because I assume I always assume I have users who I try to explain things for someone who's never heard of it before. And also because I know how many people, there are so many people who've learned Power BI on their own that they end up missing things. Like today, there were so many people who had not heard of personalizations, and that's probably something that got missed. And it's been in there for a couple years.
Yeah.
So, and people just start using it. So things like that are quite the big deal. So, yeah, if they watch the how to get started, that's probably enough to get them started, because I talk about like the desktop. Where do you get the desktop? Why you use the desktop? What is this? And then the course itself is focusing on like a pro version, not goals, but a pro version. And in theory, it is a lower end of the middle level, the intermediate level. But I try to do things so that someone who's new at it will also kind of get a feel getting along. But it's all about data modeling. And, you know, I used to always say, one of the things that surprised me, I used to always say that you had to spend 75 or 80% of your time data modeling. Microsoft says 90. And you know what? I think they're right.
I would agree. I feel like you spend more of your time cleaning up the data and modeling it and mashing it together than you do putting it together to present it.
Especially if you are going through the process of, you know, looking at the data, going through some of those data profiling, doing data profiling, and and that's a big deal, because especially, you know, there's so many cool things, but like I love organizational data types in Excel, and you could take your data model. It really has to be a big flat file, which we don't want, but I mean, that's great for an Excel person as well, being able to do something of that nature. So, have you guys seen, you know what I'm talking about? The organizational data types?
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, okay. So let me wow you one more time. Because this is, like, I should really say this is what we should be talking about to the Excel person. Okay. Let me get your faces so I can see the wow. Okay. Okay, Excel, right? Nothing fancy. If you go to data, you might have noticed some of the like organizational stock. And for those of you who don't know what these are, I'm going to show you what they are. I'm going to put in MSFP, which is Microsoft stock symbol, and Hubs, which is HubSpot stock symbol. I'm going to highlight both of those, click on stock, and it recognized the name of the company. And it's like, oh, okay, these are stock symbols. Now, if I click on this list right here, this insert data, these are all the things that are built in that I can see. So I can see what the previous close rate was. I could see the 52-week high and work my way across. So this is cool, right? Yeah, that's real cool, Belinda. But what does it do for me, right? What's it do? So I'm going to come in here and, let me go to more for my organization. Do I not have any other than the List of approved POs. Don't tell me it's not so. Okay, so who am I logged in as? Let me switch to a different user.
I think I've seen this in one of their posts, but I've never seen it in action.
I showed it at the first Microsoft Now, or Microsoft has a Power BI show on YouTube, and I was on the first one with Mike Carlo. Oh, the person who was talking about Mike is not here. Okay, so now I have it. Customers. So I'm going to put in a I need to get my Business Central customer list. I can't remember what it is, but I'm going to go ahead and just guess. So I'm going to put in like 1000. I think that one's right. So I'm going to select this and then come in and choose customers. Yep, I guessed it right. I remembered it right. That's my customer. That's how much they owe me. Let me put in a different customer. This is how much they owe me. I'm going to put this in a table.
And this is only in Excel?
Yeah, this is only in Excel. This is my data model. I've just made it a featured data model. So here I have my customer and I have my balance too. I could key in more information, whatever's in my data model. Make it their total sales. Now watch this. Now that it's in a table,
Automatic results.
isn't that
Where's the source of that customer data coming from? There must be like some table that's looking it up in.
it's in Power BI. It's a data set in Power BI, and it's actually a field in Power BI. So if I were to come in here and go into my modeling, so I have sales listed right here. And yeah, oh good, I'm logged into the same one. So here's my sales data. Now, the thing about it is it's only going to be on one table. So this is why I'm like, you really want to have like a big flat table. So in this particular case, I'm going to just come over and make it a featured table, and then it's going to ask me these few questions. And I could say sales from the online boutique. And what is my row label? So I need to identify what my row label is, which my main row label, which probably it's got to be something unique. Or it should be something unique. What's my key column? I don't have one in here on this data. I would have to do a different set of data. But once you mark it, once you come in, and this one's got, the fact table's got a lot of duplicate, nothing unique. Once I make it a feature table and I enter in the row label and the key column is what the number was, the customer number was, and the row label became the customer name. And so because then when I published this, it was featured. All I had to do, because it was featured, it automatically shows up in my Excel data. And when I come into data, I have customer and items from my organization that I could use.
So there's nothing you have to do to set that up other than the featured portion in Power BI.
That's it. And publish it to the service. And I didn't put anything in here. I'll put in another account. I mean, that is just shocking, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a pretty nifty feature.
Yes, it is.
Especially when people that sit in Excel all the time.
Now it depends. I mean, there's some great use cases for this, but this is only going to fit a specific niche. But the ease of it, where you are saying, okay, customer 4,000, 40,000, come up here, select customer, boom. What do I want from that customer?
Yeah.
Any one of these.
I think the financial / GP Business Central groups would find a lot of benefit out of this because I know they rely on Excel a lot until they get their hands into Power BI
totally.
stuff.
Yeah. So I've got the balance due. I'm going to add the credit limit. I just added it for the whole column. So now I'm going to come over and add another column right next to it. Insert column to the right. And I'm going to make this available credit. And now using the fields that I had, I could just, it's a table in Excel. So, whoops, I'll get the credit limit minus the total sales. That's the available credit. I'm just using Excel.
This is awesome.
It is, isn't it? Requires nothing. All right, so enough wow. I am going to go put my PJs on. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was nice
thanks.
meeting you. Thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you. And especially, Angela, when you were talking about thinking about getting more involved in BI for a career path, and I mean, the doors are open like crazy. I mean, it was like you were meant to come today and you were meant for me to go, hey, do you want a free class and a free voucher to take an exam? Because
yeah, I am. It's like I've got all this supply chain background, and I'm going in a path where I'm like I'm going to go into supply chain analytics of some kind. I just don't know exactly what or how yet.
Okay, so I love that you said that. Seth Godin, by Raul, I'll look for your email. Seth Godin is a marketing guy, and he is one of my favorite people. So he was the other person I mentioned besides Simon Sinek. And I was listening to him present at something, I don't know, about a year ago. And he was talking about people blogging and doing things. And they're like, well, I don't know what to blog on. And you're like, you got to find your remarkably specific. And I'm like, oh, that's it, remarkably specific. And so, because for me, Power BI, I know this sounds bigger than it is, but it really is not. In the small to medium business, which is everything from a complex one-man shop to right below enterprise, for ERP systems and Power BI with a little bit of Power Platform, that's my remarkably specific. And now I can't say it. It's on my to-do list every day to remind me to be remarkably specific. And I can't say it without singing the Lucky Charms song, be remarkably specific. And so now you'll be singing that every day too.
Yeah. There's a Marshall Goldsmith book that I just read. I don't know if you know Marshall Goldsmith as well. He's another kind of famous leadership speaker. And he's talking about slicing your toast thinner and thinner and kind of like finding your, like, forget what he called it, his like slice of genius or something like that, where you kind of just keep finding like your niche. Is a good analogy. Like, he's like, first my loaf was this big, and then I sliced it to this slice, and then I sliced it, and he's like, and he was kind of talking about like, people have greatness and kind of that special slice.
I have a lot of Belinda isms, and one of them is everybody's weird and everybody has a pocket of power. So you just have to find your pocket of power and live with that and just laugh at the weird. I mean, it's like, what else are you going to do? Right. Because we're all weird in our own way. I'm weird in about 50 ways personally. But yeah, so it's the way it rolls. Well, thank you both so much for, and Josh, thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining. We'll keep you in mind for your other topics you talked about coming up with. So.
Okay. All right. Thanks. All right.
Guys,
bye.
Thank you.